Welcome to Gray Rope Review. I am Phil the Gray. I'm here to talk about Final Fantasy XVI impressions after playing for about 16, 17 hours, something like that. So basically, I just want to give a few impressions of the game overall and how I feel measures up to some of the previous entries in the series. And there might be some mild spoilers here. I won't give away any major storyline things, but just basic things that happen in the game, mechanics, those kind of things I might mention here and there. So first, I'd like to start by saying I played the demo few, I guess, last month. I don't know. But the demo really impressed me, and it just made me even more excited to play the full game. So I've been playing it pretty much every day after I get off work, and it hasn't really disappointed me so far. I guess one of the criticisms is mainly the combat is too easy, or it's not Final Fantasy combat. Which would be turn based. I could see how people that aren't into action games would be turned off by this, but I think this is a good direction for the series to go in because doing the turn-based style is great and everything, and I love turn-based games, and some of my favorite games are turn-based. But in order for Final Fantasy to survive as a series, I think it has to reach a wider audience. And now in the world, it seems that these these more action-based RPGs are becoming more popular, like a Dark Souls or a Elden Ring or Skyrim. Um, some of these kind of games are becoming more and more popular, and Final Fantasy already has that built-in world building in a sense. The Final Fantasy tropes, I guess you would call them, crystals and chocobos and moogles, and the magic systems. A lot of these things kind of carry over from game to game. So the main thing that I think is going to continue to probably happen, depending on, I guess, how much they sell, which I think I can't speculate on all that, I guess, but really, I think as long as the game uh, got a lot of good reviews and sells well, that probably will cement that this is the direction they want to continue to go in. And I mentioned this in podcasts with John, a Rough Characters podcast we do, that I think the next step would be to actually do almost like a Mass Effect style or BioWare style game where you can make your own Final Fantasy character, kind of like Final Fantasy 14 or something like that, or even make your own party and make them kind of go out into the world, Final Fantasy style world, and maybe they have one voice actor or two voice actors, kind of like they had for Mass Effect, and your character just takes on that persona, and then that allows players to kind of mold the player their own character to however they would want. um, so that's just something I think could be a cool direction to go in. And based on just the use of the icons in this game, you could almost do the same thing with like jobs, kind of like they did in like Final Fantasy dress sphere, Final Fantasy 10-2 dress sphere style, where you could switch jobs mid combat. Um, but the way they did the icons is pretty cool because you can, switch in between the icons and you have different abilities based on whichever icon you're using. So if you're using Phoenix, for example, who's the first icon you have, uh, you can do all his abilities, and then once you get other ones later, that unlocks other abilities that you can use, which I think is cool. Um, a little bit about the characters. For example, Clive is your main character. I like him as a choice because he's not too kind of out there crazy. He's a pretty solid main character. I think that the voice actor, the English voice actor they have, is excellent and really kind of carries the character. And I think Clive is kind of he's not a silent badass type, but he's got a little more depth than that, I think. But he is a good character to have for this game specifically, to kind of go all in on the action style because his character fits in well with all the different abilities he gets. Um, yeah, as far as like your party goes, you may know, but just based on the demo that you get guest characters that join you that you can't control. And I know that's frustrating for some people because they like the party element of Final Fantasy. Um, so it's kind of hard to say anything about that. I mean, it is what it is. You can control the dog Torgal to have him do specific commands, but you can't really do anything with the other characters that join you. Um, but I'm fine with that because I'm mostly focused on what I'm doing anyway. Because it's so the this action style is so frenetic, you can't even like keep up with what other people are doing. Um, Another thing that they added to the game to make it more accessible, which is another thing people may not like, is the making the game even easier. I mean, I'm not playing with any of the rings that you can equip these rings that make certain things easier, like dodging or timing, like parries or stuff like that. I'm not using any of that, and I haven't found the combat to be super difficult. There are a few bosses that have killed me, and I haven't used any of those rings. I think you can pretty much beat the game if you're like, I mean, I'm only 17 hours in, so who knows? The bosses may get super crazy hard later, but I haven't had any like real difficulty like I would like a Dark Souls or you know that style of boss where you're just like bashing your head against the wall. Um, there are some bosses that were harder than others. And one thing I really do enjoy about the bosses is that they have some variability, so it doesn't feel like you're fighting the same boss every time. There's some bosses that have kind of a different version of that boss. So there is that element, but um, overall, I find that anytime I have a boss battle, I'm pretty excited because I know it's going to be a long battle full of parries and dodges and all sorts of stuff. So the style of the game is if you accept that it's not turn based and you just accept that it's an action game, it's really fun gameplay. I feel reminds me of. I mean, people say Devil May Cry or whatever, but I've never really played those games. Reminds me a bit of God of War, some of the earlier God of War games, or like Witcher. I've seen people compare it to Witcher. I would say it's easier to play than Witcher. Like it feels more fluid to me. But yeah, there's a lot of elements to love about the game, and particularly the story is really really cool. All the characters, like comparing to like previous entries in Final Fantasy. I probably haven't cared this much about the characters since like maybe Final Fantasy 9. I mean, that's how long I've cared about the characters. I mean, I like 10. Um, I can't particularly say I cared about the characters much in that game. I mean, I just didn't feel a connection to them. But Final Fantasy 16, like each of the main characters, you feel connection to them, and then even the villains, you know, you kind of can't wait to get your hands on them in a way. So, and when you actually find the villains, it's an epic showdown. So it's not like you hit them one time and they're dead kind of thing. Um, so if you're into like, interesting stories, cool characters, fun combat system, I think Final Fantasy 16 uh, is a great choice. I mean, even if you're on the fence about it, if it goes on sale, get it then because it's well worth it, I think. Um, and it does have a lot of the old, Final Fantasy tropes with it. There's chocobos and all that kind of stuff. But I really like how they twisted the crystals in this game, which is not a spoiler, I guess, but um, it's I guess a mild spoiler, but the crystals are not necessarily a good thing. they're uh, they're they're perceived different ways by different groups, which I think also think was interesting. Some groups think the crystals are blessings from the gods, and others think they're like, you know, evil or whatever the case is. So I like how they kind of took the crystal trope of Final Fantasy and did more with it, where it's not just here's a crystal and it gives power and that's it. Um, yeah, so far I've really enjoyed it. Can't wait to play more of it. I don't know how many hours it's going to be, but I have seen one complaint people about the side quests. I do think some of the side quests are kind of meh. I mean, I'm not a big side quest person anyway, but I do like the hunts that you get to do later in the game, which I guess is a mild spoiler. But basically, you have a hunting board and you can go out and find these monsters and hunt them down or whatever. I like that, but some of the side quests are kind of underwhelming. So I can agree with that, but I'm really hoping they do more with this game. Either, I mean, I know they said they're probably not going to do DLC, but we'll see what happens with that, I guess. But those are just some of my thoughts about it so far. And once I finish the game, I hope to update further. This is going to be my go-to game for a while. As John says, I never finish anything, so maybe this will be the one I finish here. All right, thanks for watching. And if you have any thoughts about Final Fantasy 16, please share in the comments. Let me know. Thanks. Take care.